Hello, I'm Justin, and I've got a very exciting video for you all today. What you're about to hear is something I recorded a couple months ago for a university project. It's basically a radio show I recorded with a friend of mine and a very special guest who I'm sure a lot of you guys will be very aware of, dwfan91. Prior to recording this radio show, we rewatched Doctor Who Season 1 from last year. My friend Callum watched it for the first time, and we discussed what we liked, what we didn't like. Then we listened to some voice messages you all sent into the Discord server, and then we spent a little while talking to dwfan91 about the feedback from the audience and what he thinks looking back after almost a year on Doctor Who Season 1. So I've adjusted the structure of this radio show a bit, I've added some footage over it to make it more YouTube friendly, and I hope you all enjoyed this discussion. Thank you so much to my mate Callum, and thank you so much for dwfan91 for taking part in this and speaking to us and allowing me to upload this onto YouTube. Here is the first and only episode ever recorded of the radio show Have You Seen This with Justin Hughes and Callum Bell. You're listening to Have You Seen This with Justin Hughes and Callum Bell. Good afternoon and welcome to Have You Seen This? I'm Justin Hughes.
I'm Callum Bell.
And Callum, you have just recently watched the new 2024 series of Doctor Who, haven't you, with Ncuti Gatwa? And I want to just sort of get to know your thoughts first of all. What did you think of the series?
I think it was a good fresh start that Doctor Who's needed.
Yeah.
And it was nice to see it changed up a little.
So it seems like you really enjoyed this new series of the show. But what I really want to know is what the general public thinks. So let's have a listen. Okay, so in preparation for today's show, we had our audience send in voice messages expressing their thoughts on the new series of Doctor Who. Here's what they had to say.
I thought it was very good, Ncuti Gatwa being the new Doctor.
The new Doctor's, I think, is fantastic. He's a lovely new spin on the kind of classic character.
I thought he was great casting. I think he slots into the role quite well.
Ncuti's performances were amazing.
There's a nice new kind of energy to it that makes it feel kind of a bit more modern, a bit more kind of really getting the kind of vibes of the kind of modern day.
He's decided to just go all out on the commentary, and I can understand why some people might not like it, but at the same time, that's Doctor Who.
They did a way better job with Unit than they did previously with Series 1 to 13.
So clearly a lot of the fans really enjoyed this new run of episodes, but the feedback wasn't all good.
I thought Ncuti Gatwa's first series was full of some really strong standalone episodes, but was let down by a lack of series arc, character development for the Doctor himself and Ruby as his companion, and for me a slightly underwhelming resolution in the finale.
There just wasn't a really good explanation to why Ruby had snow powers.
Kind of reminded me of the Chibnall era, where there was like nothing old in the first series, like really help remind viewers that this is the Doctor.
Shoving those episodes with each other in only an 8-part series and expecting it to work smoothly and feel natural for the audience, to me didn't work as well as previous eras of the show when the series were longer.
At some parts it felt like a bit unrealistic and a bit TV showy. An example of this is at the end of The Devil's Court when they suddenly break out into song and dance. This just kind of ruined the immersion for me, and there are plenty of other examples.
So clearly the audience generally quite enjoyed this series.
Yeah.
They seem to really like the casting, the performances. Yeah. But they had a few issues with things like the series being too long, the story arcs maybe not working, or like sort of coming to a satisfying conclusion. What do you think?
I definitely agree with that. I think the strongest points were the performances. I think they really were what made the story shine. But what I'd really like to hear is what a die-hard Doctor Who fan thinks of this.
Well, luckily, Callum, we're now joined by dwfan91, an online commentator and critic of all things Doctor Who.
So, dwfan91, for anyone who isn't aware, could you just briefly explain what it is you do online in this new Doctor Who space?
Hey guys, I am dwfan91. I'm a YouTuber from YouTube who makes videos on YouTube, usually about Doctor Who, but sometimes about other things. And I generally talk about the state of the show, do reviews, or occasionally just talk about my favourite parts of the show. I just have a general fun time discussing the show with the broader fandom.
That is brilliant, thank you. Now, I want to talk for a second specifically about the casting of Ncuti Gatwa. The popular consensus, according to those Vox Pops, is that people seem to, whether they love the series or not, they love his casting. Our audience, anyway, really seem to resonate with his performance. And why do you think that is, and do you agree?
So I think generally most people will agree, even if they don't like certain parts of Doctor Who, that the character of the Doctor is generally well cast. And I think that this remains the case with Ncuti Gatwa's brilliant and electric performance. He was brought in likely because of his role in the show Sex Education, which he was very popular in that show. And he's kind of playing, definitely not the same character, but he's kind of bringing that same vibe, which resonates a lot with young people, I feel. It's also kind of a breath of fresh air because, again, that energy is unlike anything we have ever seen before in the character. And yeah, I definitely agree. I think he's very well cast. He's got great energy. I just love him.
I just say as well, I've seen some fans say like, oh, he feels a lot like the 11th Doctor or a lot like the 10th Doctor. For me personally, I don't really link him to any. If any, it would be 10, but not really. Is there a certain Doctor you feel like he maybe pulls some elements from, or do you think he's completely unique to the role?
Definitely not. I think he's completely unique. The only one I might draw him to is actually the 13th Doctor. In a way, they've kind of got those same mannerisms. But yeah, a lot of the way he talks is completely unique. The way he gives nicknames. He's got his new catchphrase, which no one notices. So you know how like Alonzi and Geronimo were the catchphrases. Hadiyama is his new catchphrase. But
really,
no one seems to have noticed that.
I don't remember that. No.
That one hasn't really. I mean, to be fair, they cut out one of the times he was meant to use it. He was meant to use it before he got rid of Sutek in the finale. He uses it in the Devil's Cord and he uses it in Dot and Bubble. Yeah. So I forget what that actually means.
Yeah.
I think it means "let's go." Right.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
It means "come on." It means "come on."
I'll have to rewatch and look out for that.
Something people really seem to dislike was the short series runtime and the series resolution. I'm just curious to hear what you think about those elements.
I definitely agree that having 8 episodes is very disappointing. I don't think it's necessarily a criticism that can be levied at the show because, of course, the creatives would also want to do more than 8 episodes. It's kind of a thing where it can't really be helped. The only way that they could have gotten around it is if they completely changed the format of the show, which I think that they probably should do at this point because 8 episodes is simply underwhelming. You can't really get lost in it in the same way that you could with a 13-episode series, and that was what I feel kind of the big appeal of Doctor Who was, is that it was this expansive universe that you could get lost in, and there were sometimes episodes that you would forget about, but in 8, that's really difficult to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's like one of the reasons why I feel like the last series, Jodie Whittaker's final one, really worked, is because they did... You know, they had a shorter run time, so they did that serialized approach, which I think just makes a series work better. There's less time introducing new characters and more time just developing one long story with that limited amount of time. Do you think that's something that they should maybe bring back?
While I agree that Flux was very fun, I think that the serialized approach doesn't really fit Doctor Who because it takes away the whole identity of the show. And I feel like when looking at serialized, it works with Flux because it's a COVID series, and flaws of the serialized approach when it comes to Doctor Who can be overlooked because it was that COVID series. But if you were to really, you know, delve deep into Flux, you will notice that there's a lot of structural flaws there in general. But it does try to kind of have its Doctor Who cake and eat it too, where it is a new environment every episode. Each episode has to have its unique identity. If you want to talk about serialization, I think having 4 parts, 20-minute 4-part stories, serial, that would work really well. But I think having it be, say, every series be like Flux, where there's 6 episodes and then one long story, that would turn Doctor Who from being a series where it's, you know, really deep and expansive stories, and it would be you get one story every 1 or 2 years, which feels like a massive downgrade, in my opinion.
That makes sense. And again, like how we look back at that, you know, Chibnall era, and I think I'd notice relating to that, in those Vox Pops, someone said that this series felt kind of like the Chibnall era in that this first series it wasn't taking much from the previous seasons, like how in Jodie's first series, there was no returning monsters from previous eras. Obviously, we had Sutek from Classic Who, but someone said they feel like there wasn't enough like famous faces and famous villains from Doctor Who in this series. And how do you feel like that? Is that a fair critique, or do you think having all new monsters?
I would push back on that, because I think Sutek, as much as I loved it, was probably the weakest element of the last series.
Yeah.
And I think it stood strongest when it was introducing new ideas. And I think similarly to the Jodie Whittaker era, I understand there are some people who they really need the iconography to latch onto to be reassured that it is Doctor Who. But I definitely much prefer Doctor Who when it is making original monsters. And I feel like the new series as a whole, it's been going on for almost 20 years now, and it only has about 1 or 2 monsters that stand on its own, the Weeping Angels and maybe the Silence, as New Who originals, where it still 20 years in constantly has to rely on the original series iconography, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the Centaurans, Master Silurians, Ice Warriors. I mean, we have a Silurian in the next episode, and it's just one of those things where, wow, can we really get something new? And I do think Doctor Who is better and more fun when it is doing stuff that's new. Although, you know, those fun hype episodes are, of course, fun and hype.
Yeah. So do you think it was the clever approach to be so focused on new ideas and new monsters in this new series?
Yeah, I think all of the monsters were great. I loved the slugs from Dot and Bubble. I mean, I wouldn't say I was like crazy about the Bogeyman, but I think it's a pretty cool design.
Yeah.
I love the Maestro from the Devil's Cord. The ambulance and all of that is great in Boom. The woman from 73 Yards is all great. I do think that there were a lot of... and the Goblin King as well. Yeah. There were a lot of really great and fun ideas, and it makes it more special when they do bring back new stuff, as to, say, if it was episode 1 that was the Daleks, and episode 2 was the Cybermen, episode 3 was the Centaurans. And it's like, well, maybe that would work for one series, but if they did that every series, it would get very boring, I feel.
Yeah, so last thing I want to ask you is, based on the highs and lows of this newest series of Doctor Who, what are you hoping to see in the 2025 series?
In the 2025 series, from what I've heard from comments, it seems very, very enjoyable. I won't give spoilers in case you haven't read those comments, but there does seem to be a really great companion journey, which I'm very looking forward to after being... I wasn't super invested in the Ruby Sunday mystery box. I'm not a big fan of the mystery box approach in general. So I hope we kind of steer away from that and just have a more character-focused rather than a plot-focused story for the companion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us, and make sure you all listening.
Thank you so much for having me.
Check out dwfan91 on YouTube, and have a great day.
Till next time, this was Have You Seen This with Justin Hughes and Callum Bell.
You're listening to Have You Seen This with Justin Hughes and Callum Bell.
Thank you all so much for listening and watching this video. Thanks again to Callum and to dwfan91 for taking part and having this discussion with us. I am so excited for Doctor Who Season 2, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of content from me when that comes around. And be sure to, if you haven't already, subscribe to dwfan91, one of the best video essayists in the game. I'm a big fan, and the support from him has been amazing. Before I leave, I want to take a quick moment to thank the channel members. Your support means so much to me, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So yeah, I'll see you next time. Bye bye. Mwah.